Let's do something most people avoid. Let's go where it stings. Imagine this for a second. What if the biggest obstacle in your life has never been outside of you, but living quietly under your own name? No, I'm not talking about superstition. No curse, no spell, no evil eye. I'm talking about something a lot more intimate. A presence that breathes when you breathe, that thinks when you think, that moves when you move. Your psychological shadow, the side of you that doesn't show up in your selfies or your CV. The you that never appears in fun facts about me, but shows up every time you're about to ruin the very thing you've always wanted. The version of you that says, say that cruel thing, push that person away, scroll one more hour, start tomorrow, destroy this before it abandons you. You know that feeling? When life is going almost okay, and something inside you starts itching for chaos. You watch yourself from the outside. You see yourself sending the text you promised never to send again. You see your hand reaching for the drink you said would be your last. You see your mouth saying, it's fine, when nothing inside of you is fine. And afterward you say, I don't know what came over me. What came over you was you. Just not the version you like to admit exists. Now tell me honestly, have you ever sat in total silence and suddenly heard a voice in your head that sounds exactly like you? But if you listen closely, it's not talking to you. It's talking against you. You're going to fail. Everybody eventually leaves. You're too complicated. You're not enough. You're too much. We call that voice self-criticism, low self-esteem, anxiety. But let's get uncomfortable. What if that voice isn't your enemy? What if, in its twisted, clumsy way, it has been trying to protect you, not from danger, from pain, from remembering where it all started, from reopening the original wound you built your personality around? Because here's the uncomfortable philosophical truth. At some point in your life, usually when you were too young to understand it, something hurt you so deeply that your mind made a quiet decision. I will never feel this again. And from that day on, your shadow has been working overtime, sabotaging relationships that get too close, destroying opportunities that might expose you, keeping you in routines that slowly suffocate you, but never surprise you. You've mistaken that wound for your identity. You think you're the jealous one, the distant one, the intense one, the overthinker, the complicated one. You're not. You are the person that learned to survive by organizing your entire life around avoiding certain feelings, and there's a cost to that. You get used to living one step away from emotional collapse. You get used to the tightness in your chest. You get used to pretending you're okay while your inner world is burning. From the outside, you're functional. You go to work, you laugh at memes, you respond to messages, you post stories. On the inside, you're constantly negotiating with yourself. Just make it through today. Don't cry here. Hold it together. Later, we'll deal with it later. Later never comes until your shadow stops whispering and starts screaming. In addictions, in explosions of anger, in numbness that feels like someone unplugged you from your own life. That's not weakness. That's not a broken character. That's a message, an internal alarm, a code you've been ignoring for so long, it had to find louder ways to reach you. Let's strip away the drama for a moment. Forget the mystical language. Forget the spiritual buzzwords. Let's talk plainly. This video is for people who are tired of pretending their pain is random. For people who feel like an emotional glitch in a world that keeps saying, just be positive. This is for you if you've had the thought, how can my life look okay and still feel like this? We're not going to chase quick hacks. We're not going to chant pretty affirmations over untreated wounds. We're going down to the basement, to the part of you only meet at 2 a.m. when your phone battery is dying and you're too exhausted to distract yourself. your patterns, your cravings, your anger, your tendency to disappear when something matters. We're going to look at them not as moral failures, but as philosophical clues, because your chaos has a structure, it has a logic, it has a story. Your pain is not just an enemy to defeat. It's a compass pointing to where you abandoned yourself. The question is, are you willing to walk in that direction? Let's begin with something almost no one tells you. Being truly conscious is uncomfortable. I don't mean knowing the difference between right and wrong. I don't mean having opinions about politics or ethics or philosophy. I mean that raw, merciless awareness of yourself. The kind that won't let you lie to yourself for very long. The kind that interrupts you right after you say, "I'm fine," with a quiet, "No, you're not." You start seeing through your own excuses. You start noticing the moment you're about to repeat the same cycle with a different face. You feel your own avoidance in real time. And yes, it's exhausting, because when you see too much, you feel too much. And when you feel too much, you start inventing strategies to not drown. The irony? The strategies you create to save yourself are the same ones that slowly disconnect you from yourself. Think about it. You begin having behaviors you can't logically explain. You cancel plans and then feel lonely. You crave love and then run away from it. You feel empty and then binge anything that fills the silence. Food, screens, conversations, noise. You say, "I don't even like this, so why can't I stop?" From the outside, it looks like irrationality. On the inside, it's very rational. You are a sensitive system trying not to collapse. When you're more emotionally perceptive than the people around you, reality doesn't arrive as a soft, filtered stream. It arrives raw. Every look, every pause, every change in tone. You don't just notice what people say. You notice what they avoid saying. You notice the heaviness in a room you just walked into. You notice the smile that doesn't reach the eyes. For most people, this is background noise. For you, it's surround sound. And your nervous system is constantly processing. That overload has to go somewhere. Here's where compulsive patterns enter. Not as proof that you're weak, but as proof that you're overwhelmed. You're not shattered. You're overloaded. Your mind holds more than it knows how to digest. Your body stores more than it knows how to release. Your heart feels more than it knows how to express. So the system improvises. It finds a quick escape. The habit, the fantasy, the toxic person, the endless scrolling, the secret ritual only you know about. When you do it, there's relief. The noise quiets. The pressure drops. You breathe for a moment. Your nervous system takes note. Ah, that worked. Do this again next time. It doesn't care if that behavior slowly ruins your life. It only cares about survival in the moment. That's why telling yourself, "Just stop," doesn't work. You're trying to argue with a body that thinks it's protecting you. The problem isn't a lack of logic. The problem is a lack of safe alternatives. This is why repeating isn't a simple choice. It's a response. Every time you white-knuckle your way through a pattern with pure willpower, it eventually comes back stronger. Because you never gave your system anything better. You only told it, "Don't." And the more conscious you are, the more brutal this becomes. Because you see exactly what you're doing. You can narrate the pattern as you're inside it. "I know this is bad for me. I know where this leads. I know how I'll feel tomorrow." You know. And you do it anyway. That knowledge doesn't free you. It just adds a layer of shame. So let's be very clear. What you need is not more self-control. You've already tried that, again and again. What you actually need is more space, more understanding, more places where you're allowed to feel what you've been dodging for years, not to drown in it, to stop running from it. There's another twist that makes this all harder. From the outside, your life looks normal. You have responsibilities. You have good moments. Some people even envy parts of your life, and that makes you question yourself. Am I exaggerating? Am I ungrateful? Other people have it worse. Why am I like this? Maybe I'm just dramatic. So you start gaslighting yourself. You invalidate your own experience before anyone else can. You shrink your pain down to something that sounds socially acceptable. But here's the thing. Pain doesn't require a permission slip. It doesn't need a comparison chart. It doesn't ask, do others have it worse? Before it decides whether it's allowed to exist. It's there. That's enough. The philosophical mistake is thinking you must deserve pain or justify it for it to count. You don't. It simply is. Now listen carefully to this part. The more developed your emotional perception is, the more subtle your escape routes become. When you were younger, maybe your avoidance was obvious. Explosive behavior, visible addictions, clear chaos. Now, you've upgraded. You don't necessarily need substances or scandals. Sometimes your escape looks like being constantly busy, helping everyone else so you never have to face yourself, reading every book about healing instead of actually feeling, saying, I already worked on that, because you've talked about it, but never actually sat with it. Your avoidance got sophisticated. It wears productivity. It wears spirituality. It wears intellectualism. It looks impressive. It's still avoidance. Here's a hard truth. Your shadow isn't just composed of the parts of you you dislike. It's also made of everything you secretly need and don't allow yourself to want. The hunger to be seen, the desire to be held, the wish to lean on someone without being the strong one for once, the anger you've disguised as calm composure, the fragility you hide under independence. You learned to judge these needs. Maybe you were told they were too much. Maybe caring adults were absent or overwhelmed. Maybe you were praised only when you were self-sufficient. So you adapted. You said to yourself, I don't need anyone. I'm fine alone. Wanting this is weak. But the shadow doesn't care about your stories. It cares about what's real. The more you deny your needs, the more desperately they search for a way out, not politely, not through well-structured conversations, through outbursts, through obsessive attraction to people who give you crumbs, through fantasies where someone finally sees you without you having to ask. It's not that you lack control, you lack permission. Permission to feel without apologizing, to get angry without immediately explaining why you have a right to be, to cry without scheduling it between tasks, to say, I need, without attaching. Yeah, but it's okay if you can't. Most of your patterns aren't about pleasure. They're about hunger. They are the body's strange, indirect way of saying, something in me hasn't been fed in years. Unheard needs don't disappear. They negotiate. They find other doors. That's why breaking the cycle feels impossible. Not because you love suffering, not because you're secretly addicted to drama, but because suffering, in a painful way, is familiar. Think about this. The chaotic relationship that keeps hurting you, the habit that drains you, the environment that suffocates you. You know it. You know how it feels. You know what to expect. And the human mind has a strange preference. It often prefers predictable pain over uncertain peace. Well-being feels suspicious. Calm feels unsafe. People who treat you with consistent respect can make you feel strangely exposed. You start waiting for the hidden agenda, for the eventual betrayal, for the moment the ground gives way, because that's what you were trained to anticipate. So what do? You create the fall yourself. You say something to push the person away. You find a problem where there isn't one yet. You stop answering messages. You ghost peace before it can ghost you. From the outside, it looks self-destructive. Inside, it feels like protection. You were not trained for happiness. You were trained for survival. And if survival was learned in chaos, then chaos feels like safety, even when it's destroying you. This is the heart of the pattern. Your system doesn't prioritize happiness. It prioritizes what feels familiar, and whatever you experienced repeatedly, even if it hurt, became your normal. That's why letting go is so hard. Not because you don't understand logically that something is bad for you, but because emotionally, your body whispers, "We know how to survive this. Stay here." So no, this is not just about discipline. It's about deep emotional reprogramming. And reprogramming doesn't happen by yelling at yourself to change. It happens when you begin to sit with what you've spent years outrunning. When you stop trying to kill your impulses and instead ask, "What are you protecting me from?" Let's bring this into something more concrete. Ask yourself, what part of me is starving for recognition? Which feeling do I always cut off midway? Which impulse do I judge so harshly that it keeps returning through the back door? Instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this?" ask, "What is this trying to tell me?" There's a philosophical shift here. From seeing yourself as a problem to fix, to seeing yourself as a system to understand. Your sensitivity, your intensity, your depth. These aren't malfunctions. They are adaptations. You didn't become hyper-aware, emotionally intense, or vigilant because life was gentle. You became that way because at some point, you had to notice everything to feel even a little bit safe. Now, that same system is sending you a different message. I don't want to just survive anymore. I want to heal. We've talked about your shadow, about your patterns, about your sensitivity. Now let's go even deeper, to something more unsettling. Not everything you feel started with you. What if some of the emotions that weigh you down don't belong only to your story, but to the stories that came before you? Invisible emotional inheritances. You carry your own pain, but you also carry echoes. A parent's shame, a grandparent's fear, an entire lineage's way of dealing with conflict, love, silence, and loss. This isn't magic. It's psychology and history intertwining. You learned what love looks like from the people who raised you. You learned whether it was safe to express anger, or if anger destroyed everything. You learned if sadness was met with comfort, or with "stop crying." You absorbed it long before you had concepts like attachment style or boundaries. Your body became a kind of archive. So now, years later, something strange happens. You decide, this time I'm doing it differently. I'm going to set boundaries. I'm going to choose someone healthy. I'm going to rest, slow down, say no. And then, out of nowhere, dread. You feel guilty for resting. You feel cruel for setting a basic boundary. You feel like a traitor for choosing yourself. You feel as if you're breaking an invisible law. That law was never written down. It was lived. Maybe women in your family always put themselves last. Maybe men in your family never cried. Maybe no one ever left a bad relationship. Maybe everyone pretended in public and imploded in private. You learned that script. So when you try to improvise, your whole system panics. This isn't how we do things. This is dangerous. And here is where many people give up. They assume, if it hurts this much, it must be wrong. If I feel this guilty, I should go back. If I'm this anxious, maybe I'm not meant to change. But what if the opposite is true? What if the pain you're feeling isn't a sign of failure, but a sign of rupture? You're breaking the pattern. And like any system being rewritten, it resists. Change, at first, doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like betrayal. You're betraying the version of you that survived by shrinking. You're betraying the silence that kept the peace. You're betraying the family beliefs that said, people like us don't do that. But here's the deeper philosophical point. You're not actually betraying your family or your past. You're betraying the trauma that shaped them. You're saying, "It ends with me." That's not arrogance. That's responsibility. And yes, it's lonely. You might be the first in your line to go to therapy, the first to say no and keep it, the first to leave a relationship that everyone thinks you should accept, the first to admit, "I'm not okay," out loud. People might not understand. Some might be threatened. They might say you've changed. They're right. You have. You're choosing to live awake in a lineage that mostly survived by staying asleep. It's heavy work, unseen work, work that no one gives you a medal for. But you feel it, in your body, in your dreams, in that tiny slice of peace you begin to experience after the storm. So what can you actually do when your old identity starts falling apart? First, recognize this. This is not the end. It's an initiation. Philosophers talk about death of the old self. Mystics talk about dark nights of the soul. Psychologists talk about ego dissolution or identity restructuring. Different words, same experience. The person you had to be to survive is no longer enough for who you're becoming. That's terrifying and necessary. Your job isn't to cling to the old mask. It's to stay present as it cracks. Next comes rebuilding, not cosmetic rebuilding, not new haircut, new hobbies, new productivity system rebuilding, emotional rebuilding. A different kind of self-esteem, not the kind built on achievements, praise, or external success. Those crack quickly. I'm talking about a deeper kind, the ability to see yourself fully, your beauty, your mess, your contradictions, your shadows, and still deliberately choose yourself, to be loyal to yourself, even when that loyalty costs you approval. To say, yes, I have patterns I'm not proud of. Yes, I've hurt people and myself. Yes, I'm still learning, and I will not abandon myself while I grow. That is emotional self-esteem. It's not glamorous. It's built in small moments, when you speak gently to yourself after a relapse, instead of tearing yourself apart. When you apologize without drowning in shame. When you ask for help without writing an essay to justify it. When you rest without earning it. These small acts are philosophical decisions. You are deciding again and again, I am not my worst moment. I am not my family's story. I am not my shadow alone. I am the one who is willing to look at it, learn from it, and move differently. So where does this leave you? Let's gather the threads. There is a part of you that hides in the dark corners of your life, your shadow. It isn't evil, and it isn't here to destroy you. It's here to protect you in very outdated, often harmful ways. It sabotages because it fears loss. It isolates you because it fears abandonment. It repeats cycles because it fears the unknown. It clings to chaos because chaos is what it learned to survive. Your job is not to exile this part of you. Your job is to meet it, to sit with the uncomfortable voice that says, "Don't trust anyone," and ask, "When did you first learn that?" To notice the impulse to ruin something good and say, "I see you. What are you afraid will happen if this continues?" To feel the wave of guilt when you choose yourself and whisper, "We're allowed to live differently now. You won't become perfect. You won't become painless." That's not the goal. The goal is to stop living as a stranger to your own life. Here's the final question I'll leave you with. Are you going to continue negotiating with your shadow from a distance, letting it quietly script your life? Or are you willing to turn on the metaphorical flashlight, go down to that basement of old fears, inherited stories, and buried needs, and sit there long enough to hear what they've been trying to tell you? Because somewhere in that darkness, under the rubble of everything you've denied, minimized, or postponed, there's a different kind of power waiting. Not the power to control everything, not the power to never feel pain again, the power to stay present with yourself through it, silent, steady, grounded. That's where freedom lives, not in the absence of chaos, but in the decision not to abandon yourself when it appears. If you dare to stay, to feel, to listen, your shadow stops being a curse. It becomes a map. And for the first time, you are not just surviving your story. You're consciously rewriting it.